Hey, Warrior Saints. Good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome to our Crucifixional Life stream. Father Chris here. Glad to have you beautiful people with us as we continue our conversation about the Gospels from the first week of Great and Holy Lent. As we said all week, in Lent, in the Orthodox Church, the first week is filled with services called the Great Compline, and each one of them in the evening has a Gospel assigned. We've been going through them. We come to today's Gospel from the Gospel of John, chapter 15. And this is the famous I am the vine section. I'm going to read a few verses and then we're going to talk about abiding in Christ, because it's one of those things where, I think, I'm not a businessman per se, but as I read and learn about business, there are things in a church and in this ministry that I have to, do business work. So I want to know enough just not to make a mess out of things. And as I learn, one of the things that I keep seeing from the perspective of sales is that you have to find the need, the want of the person you're trying to make a sale to, the prospective client, whatever. You want to find their needs and fill it. And, asking the right questions, finding the things, doing studies, whatever, not quizzes, what they call them, surveys and focus groups. All these businesses want to find the right thing that their customers and clients want so they can fulfill the need. I'm not good at that stuff, nor am I really interested in that, because I do believe that the one thing for sure that all of us need and all of us crave, it's that desire, that shortcoming that every single person has, is that we know we can be a little bit better version of ourselves than we currently are. We may be great. Some of you are fabulous, but we could always be better. And we strive to become and find that greatness in our own lives so that we can say, when we lay our head down on our pillow for our last day at 100 years old, we can say, Lord, I gave it all, and I gave 100%. I was the best I could be. This life of mine was lived to the best of my ability. I think that's a desire that all of us have. And there are things that get lost or help us get lost, like the anxiety and the depression and the pandemics and wars and all the kind of stuff that we have to, navigate through. There are also the difficulties of being our best as a challenge. And there's just, it's hard work. And sometimes we want to be lazy about it. We don't want to do all that hard work because it's easier to eat Doritos than it is to get up and, do the work of the gospel. But inherent in all of us, we have that desire to be great. And many of us look all over the place to find it. I just was talking about business. I can't tell you how many self-help gurus and business experts there are out there who are trying to, teach us how to be the best that we can be. There are life coaches and consultants, all this kind of stuff that's out there that is trying to guide us to be the best that we can. Even in some sense, spiritual fathers are there, like as this, all of that to say that there's really only one source, one real source that can lead us to great. You were made to be great. You were made for greater. And the only way to get there is through Christ. Living a life like Jesus Christ, a crucifixional life. That's what we call it. And in John, after that long intro, we come to John in chapter 15. Jesus says the following. Now, a quick context. This is in the midst of what's called the Book of Glory. It's Jesus' speech, his long speech in the Gospel of John at the Last Supper before the crucifixion, right? So like in John 13 through 18 verse 1 is this long speech called the Book of Glory. And so this is right in the middle of it. And he says the following. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch of mine that doesn't bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. You are already made clean by the word which I have spoken to you. And here he nails it. Abide in me, and I in you. So what's going on there? First, Christ is telling us that he is the source, the true vine. Like in this tree that grows and bears fruit, he is the main source, the main branch. Like for those who have either have grapevines or have, obviously we've all seen them, there's usually a main stalk, a main branch, a main vine that starts to grow up and, it wraps itself around a tree, or sometimes we build trellises, the devices to hold them. And then there's a gazillion other little branches that go off that bear the grapes, right, that bear fruit. But it's that main branch. If something happens to that main vine, the rest will crumble, right? Because in that vine, that main branch, the nutrients come through. It's in the soil picking up, in the dirt, picking up the nutrients, the water, the minerals, all of the things that it takes up with it and spreads out to the vines. Kind of like, this is a weird analogy, but for those who know the Matrix, at the end of the Matrix trilogy, in the third one, when Neo, the hero played by Keanu Reeves, jumped into the bad guy, the bad villain Agent Smith, he goes into Smith because Smith had replicated into all these branches. And Neo somehow infects Smith, who sends it to all the other branches, right? Infects him with goodness. This is kind of the idea of the vine. And Jesus is saying that he's the vine. Now, what does that mean? To abide in him and he in us. Does it mean things like in the Orthodox Church we talk about being sacramental? Of course. Receiving the sacraments? Absolutely. Does it mean that some of our Protestant brothers and sisters talk about, personal relationships with Christ and, we walk with him and we communicate and have relationships? I'm sure there's some part of that as well. But more importantly, to abide in Christ, who is the source, is to live according to his commandments, to live the way he tells us to live, right? And to emulate him. In other words, we often talk about living a Christ-like life. What does that mean? I think it simply means what it says, to live our lives like Christ lived his life, right? The Roman Catholics talk about imitatio Christi, right? To imitate Christ. What else do you want? It's pretty clear. It's pretty simple. I don't want to over-theologize or philosophize it. A Christ-like life is a life like Christ's. It's that simple. It's really not complicated. And so what does that mean to live a life like Christ? Well, what's the big part of Jesus' life, right? The cross, baby. That's the life. And in his, this is going to sound crass. I don't mean to speak ill of the Lord, but look at it just go with what we're talking about. In his quest to become great, obviously he's the Son of God. He started great, but you follow me. In his quest to become great and conquer the greatest of all the monsters, death and sin, he did it with the cross. But because of the cross and through the cross, through that endurance and that strong effort, he went through death into an empty tomb. Do you understand that? That's the way, right? What did his hair look like, or how big were his feet, or what was his clothing like? What did he eat? I don't care. I'm not even interested, right? That stuff doesn't matter. It's that his life, the vine, the source was the cross. And he's telling you, abide in that. If you live your own crucifixional life, you're going to be abiding in me, and I'm going to be right there in you, right? That's what it means in John 15. To abide in the vine is to live a life like Christ, crucifixionally, which means you and I, as difficult as it may be, need to set our own will aside in order to replace it and do God's will. But here's the good news, and here's what Jesus tells us. When you do it, the cross is there, and it's a door that opens into the empty tomb. What more do you want? That's awesome. That's the best news. That's what we call the gospel good news, because it's promising us that greatness that we're chasing. It really does. It's the only way that works, to live a crucifixional life. To help you do that, to become all that you are, you need to visit the warriorsaints.org, which is our website right here, and subscribe to the Way of the Warrior Saint. It's an online database. It's a library. It's just filled with teachings that help teach us, guide us to live that life of Christ and find that greatness that lies within each and every one of us. I really can't encourage you enough to join us. We have new people joining all the time, and we're thankful to all of you, the old and the new. We love all of you beautiful people. Thank you for supporting us, but we also want to give back to you and help you become the best that you can be. We will resume our live stream on Sunday morning with Orthros and Divine Liturgy at 9 and 10 a.m. Mountain Standard, respectively. And then we'll be back on Monday to teach some more. Have a great week. Great Lent to all of you guys. God bless you. And until next time, as always, keep walking on the way of the Warrior Saint.